Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Criminally Mental Podcast. My name is Kody.
And I'm Zach Galloway, and here to introduce our show is the friend of our show and the host of the VT Network, Deadman.
Welcome to the Criminally Mental Podcast, where we talk about mental health and the criminal justice system with your two hosts, Kody Green and Zach Galloway, currently both on parole and compassionate release. Now, here's the show.
I would love to get a recording of him just reading the dictionary, just pointless words.
Just no sentences. You just want to hear the
Or maybe
words.
even like the back of a ramen packet, the ingredients. I want more of it, is what I'm saying.
I'm sure if you reached out to him, he'd be willing to do that for you.
I'm sure too. Most of them, definitely.
But I am super excited to be back, and we are looking forward to a really awesome episode today. We have Isabel joining us. Isabel is a former correctional officer and currently a mental health officer. So I'm super pumped.
I am obviously too. As most of you guys know, we've had some problems with reaching out to the other side of the fence, you guys might say, with the police and everything like that. So to have someone that's even remotely connected with the police be able to come on our show and talk to us is kind of a big deal.
Absolutely, because like we've said, of course, we're going to grill them a little bit, but we do want to have someone who's been on the other side of what we've experienced, because me and Zach have experienced addiction. We've been through the criminal justice system. And did you just correct my grammar again?
I'm just saying.
I know, and I'm never gonna figure it out. But you're right. Zach and I are really, really excited to have someone who's kind of in that role of working as a correctional officer, but also as a mental health officer. We're going to dive into both of what those are today. But we are still looking for more people that can come and talk to us about those experiences, because we want to have a really diverse group to pull from. And so if you know someone or you are someone that would be interested, please reach out to us, criminallymental@gmail.com, or hit us up on Instagram or on TikTok as well.
And as Kody said, the last thing we want to do is become like an echo chamber. The last thing we want to do is what we're calling Ray's doing right now. But the second to last thing we ever want to do is just have our own opinions, thrown back and forth at us. And we really do want to get some outside world involvement into the show and have them have an outlet and a voice too. So
absolutely. And because of that, we are really, really excited just to have someone in that field, in that side of the criminal justice system that we've never been able to see. So we do appreciate Isabel joining us today. But before we get started, we want to talk to you about a couple cool things we have going on. Zach, do you know what those are?
Wait. This subscription thing.
Yes.
Right?
Thank you, Zach.
I did it.
You did it. Good job, Zach.
Yeah.
We are really excited to announce to you guys Anchor, which is the platform that we currently upload all of our streaming to. It's where we are able to stream to not only Spotify, but also Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Overcast, and all the places that you listen to us live. Anchor is currently offering a support option where you can become a monthly supporter and donate a monthly contribution. And we are really excited to announce that we are going to be adding on different tiered options for these subscriptions. But for the time being, anyone who subscribes will get a Criminally Mental Podcast sticker mailed to them. If you subscribe,
that is not because we've had a hard time getting rid of stickers or Kody accidentally ordered too many stickers. That's because it is a quality sticker. Isn't that right?
Kody definitely did not accidentally order way too many stickers.
Yeah.
And needs a way to give them away to our wonderful fans. That would definitely not be the reason.
That would not be it, no.
Because Zach is the screw up here on this podcast, not Kody.
24/7, 8 days a week, baby.
But if you guys are interested in supporting us, we do really appreciate it. Check it out on anchor.fm/criminallymental, and you can be one of our first supporters These stickers are first come, first serve, but we are excited to get them out to you guys.
Like you said, first come, first serve. Like we're gonna run out of stickers.
You never know; it could happen.
I suppose.
But seriously, guys, we do appreciate it, and we want to keep being able to do this. I would love to be able to go back to doing social media and stuff full time. And I mean, Zach, at his old age, it's hard for him to get a regular job, so he really needs this.
It's valid. Of course, all you guys showing up and listening is always a great support. Please continue to do that, or else we can't do what we do,
Exactly. Now, getting aside from the boring stuff, we are really excited to have our guest today. So without further ado, we are going to bring on Isabel, and we're going to ask some questions about both what it was like being a CO and what it's like now being a mental health officer. And so we're really excited. Isabel, thank you so much for joining us.
Hi.
We are super
pumped.
How
are you guys?
We are amazing, and we are super excited to have you on today to be able to talk a little bit more about the other side of what me and Zach have dealt with basically our whole lives, because we've been in, psychiatric facilities, we've been in prisons and jails, we've been, people who have struggled with addiction. So our biggest thing was forever and ever, we've been trying to get on someone who has worked around the other side of what we've dealt with. And when your sibling reached out, we were very, very excited to hear that you'd be willing to come on and join us. So thank you again.
Yeah, I'm excited too.
So Isabel, kind of start out by, what is it you do currently? You can explain that to me, because it sounded interesting.
So I work in community corrections. So I work in probation and parole. I supervise clients. Currently, I have a general caseload, but my specialty that I have had in the past that I'm hoping to get back to is working with severe and persistent mental illness and not guilty by reason of mental defect clients.
And then I know Zach is super excited because already he was asking you about it before we got started, but I know he's going to have a lot of questions about what you previously did. You want to talk about that just a little bit?
Yeah. So my first job out of college, I worked at a secure psychiatric facility that was Department of Human Services, but it was contracted by the Department of Corrections, and we supervised severely mentally ill clients, and it was a much smaller. It was still a prison, but it was a much smaller. There was a more staff to people in our care ratio.
Yeah, it was an outside facility for people that needed that level of care, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I suffer from schizophrenia, so when I was going through the criminal justice system, I know very well of the level of fear that people in prison had of these types of facilities. And so Zach, also one of his good friends while he was in prison, suffered from schizophrenia. And so there is a huge fear built up around those types of facilities. And I think a lot of it is, I never encountered myself having to go there, but I encountered a lot of people who had been there, and there were just sheer horror stories. And I'm wondering if part of that was because of the condition that people are in when they go there, or do you think there's a certain reason why people that come out of these facilities have such intense stories? Or
I think that people tended to come to us and they were in a very, either they hadn't been medicated properly to the certain level that they needed to be, or they were in the middle of having, unfortunately, like with schizophrenia, they were in the middle of an episode. I don't know if that's the correct term, so I apologize if that's not the right term.
Yep, that's all right.
So basically, people were coming to you in like moments of crisis, more or less.
Exactly.
Okay. So Was it a facility where someone had just been arrested and they'd be taken there, or it's kind of like they would evaluate people and send them there? I'm just curious.
Evaluate and then send them.
Okay. Yeah, as Kody said, the psychiatric facility and the level of care that was in the prison I was in was just terrible. I mean, I ended up in there for a brief stint, and I can attest how bad it is. I guess my question is, what are some of the struggles that you deal with just as far as lack of funding goes for your job and your position? Because I know a lot of problems that psychiatric facilities have, especially in lockup, is nobody wants to pay to medicate someone who's a criminal. No one wants to, do any of that. So what would you say the struggles, have been with that?
Sorry, my internet went out for a second there. Sorry, can you repeat that one more time, Zach? The internet
Sure.
was being weird in my place.
No, it's all good. So I was just saying, I know a lot of the problems that psychiatric facilities face is a lack of funding, and the struggles that sprout from that. What are some difficulties that you found that you would love to change if you had like unlimited funds, obviously?
I think the biggest thing is just we could really use more people that are educated that want to help people. And it's really hard to find when you can get paid the same, if not even more, in a private setting and work with people. And so, like, it's difficult because I got into this field because I want to help people. And it's hard when I can't do that because I don't have the resources that I need, or I, in the facility, it was more so that we were very, very understaffed. So people are overworked and they're exhausted all the time because we're working 16-hour shifts. And so I think just it's the funding issue of needing more employees that is bridging issues.
Not only more employees, it kind of sounds like more of the right kind of employees. I mean, I know that every job has certain crowds that it attracts that may or may not be good, and I can understand how a relatively lower paying job for what you're being asked to do, I mean, realistically. So I mean, it kind of sounds like maybe even more incentives for people to do that job would be a great thing.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's just I think you got it right. I'm trying to think of how to say that, but
well, and so I've also noticed, and I'm sure Zach has realized it too. If you get the wrong people into positions of power like that over people's lives, it can be detrimental. So specifically with positions like that, where I know Zach has plenty of stories of COs from actual prison facilities misusing their power. I know a lot of the time what you hear of things being smuggled in, things being smuggled out, a lot of the illegal things that happen in prison you think would be happening from the criminals in there, but a lot of it ends up happening from the people who were taking that oath to not only make it a safe facility, but protect the people in there. And so it's one of those things where how often in your type of facility do you see people taking it seriously, not mocking employees? Because I've even heard snickering from psych ward nurses and stuff like that.
Nothing worse than psych ward snickers.
Well, and it's COs too. I'm sure Zach has heard it. They'll literally mock some of the people that are in there. And so it's like, at what point do we know that those people are actually care about anyone's safety? Like, how do you see any level of that when you were at that job, of people just not caring or almost taking it as a joke?
I think that there are some people that start out that way, and I saw it, some people, but pretty quickly you realize how serious you need to take it, because you're not just keeping the people that reside in that facility safe, but you're keeping yourself and your coworkers safe as well. And so I think, and then those people that do that, because there are people that will do that and they're just there for a paycheck, and you know who those people are, you tend to distance yourself from them, and they tend to get burnt out very, very quickly.
I was going to say, they tend to take care of themselves, I would assume. Just because, I mean, I know in prison.
They tend to burn themselves out.
Yeah, I mean, I know in prison, it's one of those things, even if it's a bad or a dirty CO, eventually, the snake eats itself, you know what I mean? So,
yeah. What would you say, and I'll ask you this with your current job too, but with that previous job, what would you say was your favorite and least favorite part of that job or facility?
So honestly, the residents that I worked with were my favorite part of that job, because they wanted to talk to you, and they appreciated, like, from what I could tell anyway, they appreciated all the doctors and all the nurses that were there.
Yeah.
And they knew, that I wanted to be there. And I loved talking to them and hearing their stories and trying to help them navigate a pretty difficult time. I was on an intake unit, so they were new at my facility when they were coming in. And I was there during COVID, so they had to be on lockdown. So that's not easy either. And so talking to them and being there when they needed that extra help was my favorite part. But probably my least favorite part was just seeing how difficult it was to be on lockdown, because that's not an easy. And I mean, it's not like we were in restrictive housing or anything, but they were in quarantine, so they did have to be.
I think a lot of people underestimate the damage that can go on to a person's mind if they're locked down for too long. I mean, I was on a unit that got locked down for a month once, and that was rough. I mean, not being able to go or do anything for that long. So I can certainly sympathize with that being difficult to watch or see.
Well, and my experience too, as someone who went into jail as unmedicated schizophrenic, undiagnosed, unmedicated schizophrenic person, 12 hours in a box can seem like an eternity. And so I think the part you said you liked about the job was being able to talk to people and tell that they appreciate you. I will say there are COs that I got along with, and it's very easy to tell who is there and actually cares, and who is there and is making the best of getting their money.
Yeah, they're almost to retirement. They're over everything and everyone. Yeah.
I'm gonna move this so I can hopefully get some better internet.
Okay. But yeah, Kody, that brings up a really good point. Okay. I mean, honestly, how many times did you see a CO who is just walking around, who is just done with his job in his life? He's just there until his retirement kicks in.
Yeah, exactly. And it's noticeable to the inmates. Like, we can tell. We know who those people are. We can tell who doesn't care. And it makes a big difference when we notice that someone does care. They're asking us about our lives. They want to hear about how we ended up there. They want to offer advice on, like, what options we have when we get out. There's literally a CEO I remember, or a CEO. A CEO.
To say, who are you locked up with?
There's literally a CEO I remember who was the one who, after I got out of my first and only stay in solitary confinement, helped me recognize that I was struggling with mental health. And even though I couldn't get the help I needed in there, he was the one who basically helped me realize that I needed help once I got out. And that was huge to me. That was the main reason I ended up getting diagnosed after I got out.
Yeah, I even had a CEO who was just really, he kind of took care of us, watched our backs, didn't really write us up when he found hooch, the usual stuff.
The usual.
It's super windy here, so I apologize.
No, it's okay.
And then I guess my next question for you would be the same question, but with your current role. So what would you say is your favorite aspect and your least favorite aspect of the role you're currently in?
So I think the favorite part of my current job is seeing people that were not in a very good position before they were on supervision, and seeing them make the changes that I know they can make, and coming off supervision in a better spot than they were in before, and knowing that I know that they're gonna be okay.
I would imagine that would feel pretty good. Yeah.
It's nice to when people take the help that I want to give them, and they use my resources, and they use so that they can not just do better when it comes to addiction and stuff like that, but also because that's a whole other thing, and that's not because they don't want to. That's a mental health issue. So, but when they take the changes when it comes to, setting boundaries, or, or keeping a job that maybe they weren't able to keep before, and stuff like that, and just seeing them make those positive life changes, that's probably my favorite thing.
So it kind of sounds like you do a lot of like counseling-esque sort of one-on-one with these parolees and stuff, the probationees and whatever.
Yeah. Yep. That's the bulk of my job now, is one-on-one stuff.
And you did just mention that the favorite part of your job is, being able to see people utilize that stuff. But I imagine, and this is coming from an addict here, and someone who also went undiagnosed with my schizophrenia for over 2 years because I refused to receive treatment. I refused to get help. I would imagine that the other side of that coin is there are a lot of people who are not ready to receive help, even if they are in prison, even if they are in a mental health facility. Some people aren't there yet, and unfortunately get put there before they're ready to make that change. What is that like? Because I remember when I went in, I wouldn't cooperate. I was upset. I was hallucinating and paranoid and delusional. And I was still coming off of drugs. So the last thing I wanted was help. I didn't want to admit I needed help. I wasn't ready to receive help. So what is that like from your side?
It's one of those things where it's difficult, because I can see the potential in people, and I know that they can do it, but I can't make them. Yep. And so helping them, even if it's just maintaining somewhat stability until they are ready, that's all I can do. And it's frustrating, but I know that I can't force anyone to do anything. So just waiting for them to be ready is all I can do until.
See, and we've kind of talked about this on the show before. We often get a question from people, what can I do to help my cousin, my father, or my whatever? What can I say? And you kind of hit the nail on the head there. You can't say or do anything to make someone stop their behavior and get help or anything like that. They kind of have to be at that point where they're ready to do it. And that I would imagine is very frustrating to deal with as a job.
It's probably the hardest part of my job, is just giving people the tools and waiting for them to be ready to use them.
See, that would frustrate the hell out of me and my personality type. What about you, Kody?
Yeah, and it was like I said, when I came in, the last thing I wanted was to even talk to any of my, like, the COs, the officers that originally arrested me. I didn't want to cooperate, because at that time there was nothing wrong with me in my head. In my head, I was like, I'm fine. I don't need help. You guys are the people who think I need help.
You guys need help.
Yeah, exactly. But I know how rude I was, and how standoffish, and to some people who, yes, maybe we're just trying to oh, we got a drug addict, we can arrest him now. But there definitely were people that I encountered along that, whether it was at the, after I was arrested, after I was put into, once I was waiting for my sentence, there definitely were people there who wanted to help, and I refused it. So I just imagine that would be, I don't know if I could deal with that, especially as someone who's been through it, because I know that once they start making those changes, like the world is just open to so many possibilities. I'm like, Zach, did you ever think you'd be doing a podcast and making social media for a living?
No, are you kidding me? No, 9 million years.
And even when I started getting better, I was like, everything good that I could have done, I thought was gone. And so like, even after I started receiving help, you never think that you'll be able to do stuff like this. And it's because of people that are willing to, sit by and wait for you to accept help that that's possible. With coworkers of yours, do you ever have to like explain that to people who get frustrated? Because I know even people who mean good have to get frustrated with that. Like, is that a conversation you guys ever have to have with each other?
All the time. Because we have to sit down and, I mean, nobody really understands what we deal with on a daily basis except each other.
Yeah.
So we talk to each other about it a lot, and we bounce ideas off of each other, because it can get to a point sometimes where you feel like you're up against a wall and there's, what else can I do? And that's a really frustrating feeling. So then going and talking to a coworker and being like, this is how I'm feeling right now. This is what I'm dealing with. This is the situation. This is what I've tried. What can we, do you have any ideas? And a lot of the time they do. So
here's a question for you. Do you feel that you yourself as an employee have access to adequate mental health care of your own? Because I mean, that job, I honestly can't wrap my mind around. It would be torture for me. I know I would need to have some sort of, mental health care of my own to do that job.
And before you answer, this is where I want to get a buzzer for every time Zach manages to pull an amazing question out of his ass, because that was such a good question, and I was like just starting to think of that too. I'm like, that has to be really emotionally taxing. So I'm gonna get a buzzer that goes hurrah every time Zach, because Zach doesn't prep his questions.
It has to say it like that though. Hurrah!
Hurrah! But no, you can go ahead and answer that. That was a really good question. I'm definitely interested to know that as well.
Well, I feel like I do, for the most part, but I mostly lean on coworkers and friends and my family, to work through a difficult day, but mostly coworkers, I think, because I don't want to put that emotional stuff on other people, like my family, because they don't deal with it every day and they don't know how to. We tend to deal with it through dark humor a lot at work. Everybody does it. I mean, it's just a thing in when you work in corrections, that's one of the ways we tend to deal with things. It's not healthy. And we know that, but we do it anyway.
Kody and I know all about coping with dark humor.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I know your sibling listens to the podcast. I don't know how many episodes you've listened to, but humor has always been a coping mechanism for the two of us. That's why when we found each other on social media, we were like,
this guy.
So yeah, I mean, we make jokes about things we probably shouldn't, like our own mental health all the time. But I feel like I have support, and we have support through work. They will help us out finding counselors and stuff if we need to. And I mean, I always feel like I can talk to, I've got, friends at work that I feel like I can talk to if I'm having an issue, or even friends that don't work in, like I have a friend who worked at a psychiatric facility as well. She doesn't work in that system anymore, but she still remembers what it was like when she did. So she's more than happy to talk to me sometimes about my day, and if something really emotional happened or something. But you also kind of just learn to put it in a box, which again isn't that healthy, but
Yeah, I was about to say the whole putting in a box thing worked great for me before the box exploded. So
Yeah. But when it, and so that's in terms of your current job. Did the correctional officer job that you had, did they require any sort of like, I've actually heard of some prisons and I like maximum security and stuff that have required some sort of like counseling for any traumatic events if someone passes away, like stuff like that. And I know not a lot of places require it, but I would imagine they would at least have those options.
Yep. So anytime anything, even in my current job and in the correctional officer position I had, anytime we have anything significant happen, whether that's an incident with a resident or with a client or even just among staff, we have a debrief with supervisors and each other to kind of make sure everybody's okay. And then they normally will follow up with you a couple of days later. And if it's significant enough, they will normally try and get you to see someone. We also have peer supporters on staff as well that we work with. So,
like peer support specialists, or
I believe so, but I don't think that they are. They're like, we go through training as employees,
Yeah.
and we are able to do the peer support specialist training to work with other staff members.
Okay. Yep. So I know that NAMI, the National Alliance for Mental Illness, they do something really similar just for people in general with mental illness. I'm actually trained as a peer support specialist.
are you?
Huh?
Are you?
Yes, I am.
Really?
Yeah.
Fascinating.
It is. You learn something new every day. I'm also certified as a recovery coach, Zach. Did you know that?
Really?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Learn something new.
I got a gold star painting a duck when I was in kindergarten.
Well, I mean, that's something.
We both accomplished things, is all I'm saying.
Absolutely. And then also, I guess I wanted to ask you too, because I'm sure with you getting into that type of work, was there something in your life that helped you decide that? Was it something in your personal life, family, or friends? Because I feel like people who get into being a correctional officer, being a mental health officer, I feel like that's not something you just fall into.
Basically, what's wrong with you, essentially, is the question. What happened to you that made you wake up and go, that's the job I want to do?
I don't know if that's exactly what I was asking.
That's
but
exactly what you're saying, Kody.
So I have wanted to do this field since I was 9, which is not normal. And
No, I don't
I
think
know
so.
that. It's gonna sound really dumb, but I watched Silence of the Lambs, and I decided I wanted to be Clarice when I was 9. That's not exactly realistic. So I went to school, and I have an undergraduate degree in psychology and in criminal justice. And originally, I went to school wanting to be a psychiatrist in the prison setting.
You
worked.
wanted to do that?
Yes.
Like, that was the first choice of jobs for you.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to grasp exactly what I'm hearing.
You were like, hey, you know all those criminals? I wanna be the person who asks them why. Why
Yeah.
did you do that?
Yeah, I mean, my mom and dad think it's weird too, but
Well, I actually don't think it's weird. So my thing is, and I've said this numerous times, I am a firm believer that most people in jails or prisons actually belong in either psychiatric facilities or recovery clinics. Because when I was in there, I mean, don't get me wrong, prisons are necessary. There are bad people out there, but a majority of the people I met were very similar to my same situation. They were people who were either really struggling with addiction or really struggling with mental illness. So
then I did an internship, and I decided I liked community corrections better. I like working in the community with people and helping them, if they're releasing from the facility or if they're in the community and whatever, and I like doing that a lot better. And that's actually what you're talking about. That's what I recently graduated with my master's degree, and that was what my project was on, was mental health in prisons.
Yep.
And it's significantly higher than anywhere else. And I always said that just because you did something wrong doesn't mean you should get punished for the rest of your life for it. And that's why I went into the field that I went into, because I think that you shouldn't get punished because you made a mistake.
Yeah. So, and me and Zach, Zach and I have had this conversation a couple times, and I think Zach and I would probably, we're kind of weird because yes, we've both been in jail, but we also are firm believers that despite your mental illness, if you commit a crime, you do need to be held accountable to a point. Now, I do agree where you said not forever, because a lot of the time I think that's what we see is people with serious mental health issues doing something that definitely shouldn't be a life sentence, getting sentenced for their entire lives. That being said, me and Zach are very, very adamant, and we talk a lot about even with a mental health issue or with addiction, and addiction we do count as a mental health issue when we talk about it. If you're committing a crime, someone has to be. Yeah. You can't just let people not be sentenced because of a mental illness, because then mental illness becomes the poster child of a way to get out of being sentenced.
I would agree with that, definitely. I think that you like you said, people need to be held accountable for their actions, but I think we need to take into consideration a lot of the time the reasoning behind those actions. And if that is, brought on by mental illness, whether that's a mental health issue, I think that just looking at the background is really important, and I don't think we always do that.
Yeah. No, that's very well said. I agree with that.
Yeah, unfortunately, I mean, I know Kody and I both talked this through a million times, but like you said, we can't treat people with illness as criminals because it just makes them become criminals. Yeah. Honestly, I mean, like, I remember when I first got locked up, it didn't do anything for me but taught me how to smuggle. You know what I mean? Like, that was basically it.
Yeah, I would say jail makes people better criminals, not better citizens when they get out. And it's one of those things where if we can prevent that, if someone really is struggling with mental illness or addiction, and that is the only thing that is related to their crime, I get so irritated when I see people get sentenced to such long times just literally for possession, literally for, if they're struggling with mental illness. We see a lot of situations where police are called to scenes, and then the only thing they're charged with is like assaulting an officer or something, because they approach this person like they're a criminal and not like they're someone having a mental health crisis. And so that's one of the things that gets me incredibly frustrated, is not being able to find a better way to, and I don't know if you're aware of this, Zach, there is going to be a new hotline. So 988 is going to be the new mental health hotline instead of calling 911. That's going to be a nationwide number that's supposed to be getting released this month, I believe. For people in mental health crises, they will get sent to an operation, someone who will not put them through to the police officers, but for my understanding is they will be sent, the information will be sent directly to the police officers. So they'll know what they're going into, because the biggest issue with police response is that if it's mental health related and you come up aggressively, someone struggling with mental health crisis isn't going to be able to tell the difference between a police officer. And in my case, when I was delusional and hallucinating, you could be a police officer or a faceless person. I'm not going to know the difference. And so,
yeah, that's a really good point. And again, that number is 988 for anyone out there. And like Kody said, we're really excited for this number to get out there because cops only have what they're told to go off of.
Yeah.
It's not entirely their fault if something goes awry because all they have is just what's said on the phone. So I think having a proper hotline for mental health crisis specifically is a great idea. And so you kind of do a little bit of that, right, in your current job. What sort of training do you go through for that?
So one of the big ones that I did was called mental health first aid. And it is, we go through a lot of different disorders, whether it's depression, bipolar disorder, or anything like that, and what it might look like if someone is in crisis and how to help them. And that's I don't think that's required. That's just something I wanted to do. But we also have, like, during our training, so when I went to training, we had like a whole 2 days on mental health and what that might look like and how we can help people that might be in crisis. And I think that was really helpful, but I really enjoyed my mental health first aid. I think that's come in handy. So
Do you think that should be required of people in your current role? Because you said it was optional.
Yeah, it's not required. I think that it's a really, really good one to have because even if you don't have a specialty in mental health, that doesn't mean you're not going to be working I would say at least 50% of the people I work with have a mental health issue. And I mean, even more than that, most likely, especially with addiction and all that kind of stuff, that's a mental health disorder as well. And so when you include that, I would guess the number is quite significant. So I think that the training is definitely something that I would recommend.
So what training, is actually like mandatory there? It's not optional. Everyone has to go through it. What sort of standardized training is there?
So we have I believe it's 5 weeks, 5-week training when we start. And then throughout our first year on the job, we have to do a series of additional trainings. When it comes to mental health, it's like 2 to 3 days, I believe, is what's required. And we have psychiatrists and psychologists come in and talk to us, explaining what people might look like in crisis, but also just how to work with certain disorders that might be more difficult to work with. Before I have pretty bad ADHD. So, working with people with ADHD is something that comes a little bit more naturally to me than other people, but other disorders, maybe not. So I think just talking to people, and I think, that's what's required. Sorry, I went off on a tangent.
No, it's fine. It kind of leads me to my next question. Sorry. Someone asked actually, what would be the best advice you can give someone who's dealing with another person who's in mental crisis of some sort? Like, what's a way to kind of diffuse a situation in your mind, address things, kind of calm it down, that sort of thing?
My go-to is asking them what they need right now. Do you want me to turn some music on? Do you want me to leave it quiet? Do you want me to have the lights down? What can I do to help you right now that's going to help with what you're dealing with? Because I don't know what people need. So asking them what they need right now is my biggest piece of advice, probably.
Seems pretty good. Kody, you have any thoughts?
So my only other thing, and I was just reading a comment here, I did mention that 988 number. And one of the people commented, they asked, I thought the 988 number was just the suicide prevention crisis. And so I'm actually reading here from the Wisconsin Department of Health Services. The 988 implementation is going to be not only the existing National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, it's actually going to be renamed to the Suicide and Crisis Hotline. So the importance of that is not just people struggling with suicidal tendencies, but anyone struggling with mental health related crisis can use that line. And what it does is it puts a filter in between. Instead of calling 911 directly, you're basically adding in the suicide prevention lifeline in between there. So you will have someone to talk to before it's reported. If it needs to be reported to an officer, you'll have someone who can actually specifically talk to you about the issue, decide whether or not an officer is even needed for that call.
And in the event that an officer is needed, you immediately have a built-in advocate for you in that situation, which, I mean, I don't think Kody and I can stress this enough. You want to have that person there who's your advocate in that situation.
Absolutely. And the other thing I'd like to see too, and so Isabel, when you joined us today, the title mental health officer I've seen used in a variety of different ways now. So we are planning on having another mental health officer from Madison, Wisconsin, joining us eventually here. And the nice thing about what they do is they actually tag along with police on their interactions. So there is literally an officer assigned to a regular on-duty officer, and they only go to mental health related calls. And this is being implemented across the United States. Is this something that you see happening in your area? And you don't have to give specifics, but is that something that you have seen or would like to see?
That is not something I have seen, but that sounds like a fantastic idea, because that is one of the biggest issues I have with clients when I get police reports is police not always knowing what they're going into. And I think that sounds like a great idea.
It's something that when I recently spoke at a police conference and they were talking about it, and I was really fascinated because it's something that when I look at it, we always talk about everyone, no matter where you are politically, there's such a conversation around police and mental health. And so when we talk about that, it's really important for me because I don't want to automatically point a finger at police and say, this is your fault. I may believe that, but I'm not going to just say it.
Because we may think it very loudly.
But here's the thing is police aren't going anywhere. We are going to have police. We need police to an extent. And so my thing is the best thing we can do is make sure that we are maximizing the potential that police have in situations like that. And by having either a trained mental health professional or a mental health officer who is designated only for mental health calls and has to go to additional training and has to go through ethics training, stuff like that, is crucial, because de-escalating mental health situations could reduce the number of people that are unfairly hurt or even killed in those situations. And so if that's something, with you being in a role like you are, I know that the one in our area was actually started by people in like very similar roles to you that worked with, and especially since you have that criminal justice background, I would look into if that would be something they could implement in your area, because I just want to see that everywhere. That's what I would love to see take place all over.
And it's so
I
weird.
agree.
It really sounds like, yeah, shouldn't that be a thing already?
It sounds like one of those things where like, wait, that isn't something we do already? No, it's not.
Yeah.
And it really needs to be. But that's something that if you could look into, I'm sure every area needs it. So
I agree.
With your background, I think that would be something very cool for you to look into.
Yeah, definitely.
But we are coming in on the last 10 minutes here. So, Zach, did you have any final questions for Isabel here?
So you woke up and you're like, I want to be a CEO. I want to work in mental health, and I'm a woman. I mean, pick a struggle. Like, what happened there? Walk me through that.
I guess I just like to put myself in difficult positions, apparently. But
No, more power to you, honestly. I mean, I know it must be a little bit nerve-wracking going on a show like this. Just, we're not exactly pro-police all the time here, or police contract people, but we do appreciate you coming on and sharing your story and everything. You sound like a very functional and positive member of the facility that you're a part of, and that's really great to hear.
I try to be.
And we do appreciate you coming on. And I mean, let anyone know who's a CO or officer. You can tell them right now. We're not that mean. We would love to have some more COs and officers on, because when it all comes down to it, the conversation that we're having now is really important, and it's something we need to continue having if any change is going to happen.
And not enough people talk about it.
Absolutely.
I think that's one of the great things about having the show is we actually have a platform where we can have this open discussion with people and stuff like that. So I think we kind of have to take advantage of that.
Yeah, and I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about it with you guys. So thank you.
Yeah, and we appreciate having you on. But before we go, we do have to, unfortunately, talk about Zach's balls for a second.
That's true. We do need to discuss Zach's balls. Zach's balls are currently so smooth. That's smooth with a V. That's how smooth they are. Because the Lawnmower 4.0 is basically amazing. Kody, did you try yours out?
Absolutely. So me and Zach were really fortunate. We just got Manscaped sent us both brand new care packages with a little bit of everything. Zach got his ball deodorant that he loves to talk about.
It's true.
And not only did we get the Lawnmower 4.0, we also got the Weed Whacker, which is also a waterproof electric razor, but it is actually for a nose and ear hair trimmer. So it is, and that one, I was amazed. I didn't know they were sending us that one. I love that as well as the Lawnmower 4.0. But this package had anything you could ever imagine. And you guys can get the same package at Manscaped, and you can get 20% off your order with the code Zach and Kody.
And not only that, but it comes with a very nice pair of boxers. I just want to point that out. The boxers, mwah. Amazing.
Yeah, that's something we've never really discussed, is how nice the boxers are.
True. I can't stop Eddie from stealing mine, so.
Yeah. All right. Well, Allison hasn't tried to steal mine yet, but we'll wait and see if that changes.
Give her time.
Give her time. But we really do want to thank you for coming on here as well and giving us time to grill you a little bit. I hope we weren't too hard on you. We definitely want to keep having conversations with people that have been able to work with people like me and Zach. So
Zach and I.
God,
how hard is that, bro?
Damn it. It's apparently impossible for me.
Unbelievable.
I do the same thing, Kody. I do it all the time. And I get corrected by everybody.
But Zach and I would you're welcome. Would really like to thank you for coming out and doing this with us. If we're scrambling to get someone to come on in the future episode, we'd love to have you back because we have a tendency to do that.
It does happen.
I'm more than happy.
Very cool. Is there anything else that you want to say or address, or do you have a hashtag you want to plug or anything like that?
Not really. I don't think so.
All right.
I think
well, then.
Thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to talk about it, because I like to get on my soapbox about this stuff, because I think more people need to know about it and more people need to talk about it, and we don't. So.
That's Absolutely. Good. We are nothing but a pair of pretty face soapboxes at the end of the day. So
that is 100% true. But we do appreciate you as well. Thank you so much for joining us, Zach. Any final words for the people today?
What you gonna do with all of that junk? All of that junk inside of your trunk, America.
And thank you for joining the Criminally Mental Podcast.